what did you think of the way Dabo handled that yesterday?
You know, it's interesting, Greeny. When I heard it last night, I reacted viscerally. I was upset and asked the question, why did it take so long? And I started thinking overnight. I started trying to do what I've been telling other people to do, listen instead of react. And overnight, I changed my mind because in the end, Dabo Swinney addressed it, whether it was a week after the fact or who cares? I mean, we've been talking about being too late on so many things for so long that the time doesn't matter. He did it. And I believe him. I know Danny Pearman. I don't believe he's a bad person. I know Dabo Swinney is a very good person. I've been around him since he was in high school and college. And I think in the end, he put this to bed. Maybe not exactly like I would have preferred, but who cares what I prefer? He was there, I wasn't. And in the end, I think he's put a bow on it. I think he's ended the conversation, and I give him credit for that.
Booger, you cover the sport a lot. You obviously know a lot of the people involved. What was your reaction to how he handled it yesterday?
Well, I appreciate Dabo coming out and making a statement and addressing it head on. I've known Dabo a long time. Dabo, to me, is the salt of the earth as it comes to a man. I mean, Dabo is a very faithful man. I think context matters in any situation, in any form in life. And I think the context in which he said makes a lot of sense to me. With that being said, I think what we have here is a perception standpoint. The perception of a coach using the N-word toward a player just doesn't sit right, especially now with everything that's going on in society. And so for me, I think Dabo did the best he could. Now, could he have fired Pearman? I think if the word were directed directly at the player, he would have called him it. I think Dabo, me knowing what I know about Dabo Swinney, I think Dabo would have fired Pearman. But I think based on the context, based on who Dabo is, I'm more apt to believe it. I'm more apt to understand why he did it, but it still doesn't make it right, especially with the history. I'm a firm believer, Greeny. If you want to understand why people become so emotional about something in the present, then follow the trail of how we got there. Understand the past and the foundation. And I think if you do that, you understand why this is such a very emotional and sensitive topic.
I'm being told that Jay Will really wants to get in. I will get you in, Jay, I promise. But Jalen, you reacted very strongly to this initially, and I saw some of your posts on Twitter and here as well. So what was your reaction to Dabo yesterday?
I think to give a genuine response about an action that is committed by somebody, whether they're a member of our family or friends or somebody that we've encountered in this business, is not necessarily to talk about whether they're a good or bad person. Hopefully we all intend to be that. That should come with just being a living, breathing human being, an adult. So we're not going to give people credit for quote unquote being a good person. We want to just talk about multiple situations for me that have shown me that Dabo has become a habitual line stepper. I remember, because I was keeping score, he was one of the collegiate coaches that came out and was really outspoken during the Colin Kaepernick knee scenario and made sure, he said publicly, that any of his players that did that, they would be punished. He would not allow it. I just saw him recently online with a shirt that said, "Football matters." If that isn't tone deaf, I don't know what is. I'm sitting here trying to think of any word he could have put in front of matters right now that would not have been tone deaf, and I still can't come up with one. So I'm not going to overreact to an assistant coach not saying the word to a player, but Dabo and Paul, here's what I want to show you guys. He still ain't allowed to repeat it. That's the disconnect. And Paul, it does matter whether it was a day, a week, a month, or a year. That's the disconnect. These are things that got to be head on dealt with. And when they don't, the pain lingers. I'm looking down at my phone. I'm seeing more people in Tacoma, Washington that just got killed that said, "I can't breathe." More incidents about the police, okay, that are happening right now during this pandemic. Timing and tone definitely does matter when you're in a position of authority and you happen to be a white coach. You seeing all of these players across the country, kids from Iowa, talking about different things behind the scenes that they allowed their boss and employer to do to them, but they were muzzled because they were on scholarship and they didn't want to mess up their opportunity to play football.
Paul, I'll give you a quick response, and then Jay, I'm coming to you. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, no, I hear you, Jalen. I hear you loud and clear. I just think that he was trying to protect Danny Pearman, and let's not forget Danny was his coach in college, and I think that's where I began to formulate my thoughts. I said at the beginning, I'm completely baffled by the whole situation. It shouldn't have taken this long, but it did. But in the end, I hope that Dabo Swinney will alter his rather narrow views of all of this. I really do.
Jay Williams, I'll give you a final thought.
Yep. Two quick things here, Green. Number one, I agree with Jalen. I actually want to hear confirmation from the individual player, kind of giving me context and how he heard it. I think number one, I think that'd be very important. And number two, these are all completely different conversations. I want to address something very quickly that I think is a very valid point here. And this is a systematic issue within the own Black community. I never want to give somebody subconsciously the permission to say that word. Ever, Greenie, ever. And I think it's something that, I've been on this network and I've been on a lot of other networks where I've heard people say, well, it's something for me to say with my friends, but that means you can't say it. This is not a word that I say. I understand what this word has been for our heritage and the word that's been used. So it's something also, and I'm not saying the kid was at fault here, but I think if we're having heightened moments of awareness within our society, I think this is a great understanding and opportunity for me as a Black man and other Black people to take this and say, maybe we should think about what that word means. And if we say it around other people, does that give them permission to say that? Or does that put them in the situation to say that? And when it's a systematic issue that I'm getting flustered by even thinking about it, it's just a word that nobody should use.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.